He were between humans and the alien empire of Zareth had ended after many years. Both sides had lost too much. Many planets were broken, cities turned to dust, and the people of Zareth were starving. Their land was poisoned, their rivers dry, and their crops could no longer grow. Even their royal family was not spared. The great King Zorath VII ruled from a palace of glass and metal, but inside those shining walls sadness lived. His only daughter, Princess Lyra, had grown weak from hunger. She could hardly stand without help. The royal healers tried everything, but their food made her sicker each time. When the Human Federation sent a peace envoy, one of the men chosen was Commander Ethan Hale. He was a soldier known not for violence but for his calm nature and gentle words. He had seen too much war and wanted peace more than anyone. When he landed on the alien planet, the sky was a pale blue with two suns shining faintly. The air was thin and the ground cracked like old leather. His small shuttle carried supplies, medicine, clean water, and something simple but precious: human food. At the royal palace, the guards looked at him with distrust. To them, humans were rough and simple beings from a far-off blue world. They did not believe such creatures could bring anything of value. Ethan walked through the long hall of glowing stone until he reached the throne room. There sat King Zorath, tall and weary, his crown dimmed with age. Beside him, lying weakly on a golden chair, was Princess Lyra. Her eyes were half closed, her silver hair dull. Ethan bowed respectfully. "I come in peace," he said softly. "I bring help." The king looked at him with pride and pain mixed together. "Your kind brought war to our skies," he said. "Why should we trust your help now?" Ethan lowered his gaze. "Because peace means more when we have both suffered." The king studied him for a long time, then gave a short nod. "Very well. Show us what you bring." Ethan opened a silver crate marked with the Human Federation seal. Inside were small packages of food, simple things like bread, soup mix, dried fruit, and chocolate bars. The aliens murmured among themselves. To them, it all looked dull and strange. "This?" one advisor whispered. "You feed your children with this plain thing?" Ethan smiled faintly. "We do, and sometimes it saves lives." When he turned toward Princess Lyra, she was watching him with faint curiosity. Her lips were pale and her hands trembled slightly. Ethan could see she had no strength left. He gently took out a small piece of warm bread from a food warmer. Its soft golden color stood out in the cold light of the hall. "May I?" he asked the king. The hall went silent. The king hesitated, his sharp eyes softening as he looked at his daughter. She was fading day by day, and nothing their own science had done could stop it. At last he gave a slow nod. Ethan stepped closer and offered the bread to Lyra. The scent filled the air, warm, real, and full of life. Even the guards took a breath as the smell reached them. The princess stared at it as if she had never seen anything like it before. "What is it?" she asked weakly. "It's bread," Ethan said softly, "made from grain grown under sunlight mixed with water and salt. Simple, but made with care." She blinked slowly, uncertain. No one had ever spoken to her like that before, so plain yet so kind. She took the bread in her hands. It was soft and warm. When she tore a small piece and put it in her mouth, everyone watched. For a moment, nothing happened. Then her eyes widened. The flavor was unlike anything she had ever tasted. It was not bitter or dry, not metallic or cold like their artificial food. It was alive with warmth. Her body reacted instantly. The color began to return to her cheeks. Her pulse quickened. A tear rolled down her cheek as she whispered, It doesn't hurt." The king leaned forward, stunned. "What do you mean?" Lyra swallowed another small piece. "It doesn't make me sick. It feels good." A murmur spread across the hall. The alien healers rushed forward, checking her pulse, her breathing, her energy readings. Everything was stabilizing. The change was real. Ethan smiled quietly. "It's not just food," he said. "It's the work of many hands. On Earth, when we make bread, we share it with those we care about. It's a piece of home." Lyra looked at him again. Her eyes, once dull, now had a faint shine. She took another bite, slower this time, and let the taste fill her completely. It was soft, gentle, and full of comfort. For the first time in months, she didn't feel like a dying princess. She felt alive. The king stood from his throne, his heavy robes dragging across the floor. "How is this possible?" he asked his advisors, but none had answers. Ethan explained that the food was created from ingredients humans grew naturally, full of harmless proteins and fibers. He offered to test it further, but Lyra interrupted softly. "No," she said. "I already know. It's healing me." The king's hard expression melted. He looked at Ethan, his voice trembling for the first time. "You saved my daughter." Ethan shook his head. "No, Your Majesty. I only shared what was ours to give." Later that night, while the court was busy studying the food, Ethan stood outside under the pale twin moons. The alien air was cool and faint lights shimmered in the distance. He heard a quiet voice behind him. It was Lyra. She had walked there herself without anyone's help. "You left your world to come here," she said softly. "To help strangers like us." Ethan turned, surprised. "I came because peace means nothing if people still suffer." She looked down, holding a small piece of bread in her hand. "I was told humans were loud, selfish, and rough. But this," she said, raising the bread, "tastes like kindness." Ethan didn't know what to say. For him, it was just something simple, something every family on Earth took for granted. But here, on this lonely world, it had become a miracle. Lyra smiled faintly, her strength still returning. "When I tasted it," she said, "I felt warmth in my chest. Like sunlight after a long night." He nodded quietly. "That's how it should be." She looked up at him then, her silver eyes shining softly. "Thank you, human." Before he could answer, palace lights flickered on in the distance. The healers were calling for her return. She turned to go, but paused. "Will you be here tomorrow?" she asked. "I'll be wherever I'm needed," Ethan said gently. As she walked back inside, her steps were steady for the first time in months. The guards who once looked down on the human now bowed their heads as he passed. That night, no one in the palace could sleep. The news spread through every corridor. The human's food brought the princess back from death's door, and as the twin moons rose higher, the sound of quiet laughter echoed faintly from the royal chamber, a sound that hadn't been heard there in years. The princess sat by her window, finishing the last bite of earthly bread. Her eyes glowed softly with wonder, and for the first time since the war, hope had returned to the alien world. The next morning, sunlight from the twin suns filled the palace halls. For the first time in many cycles, the place felt alive. Servants whispered as they passed through the corridors. Guards exchanged small smiles. The story had spread across the empire. The princess had eaten human food and recovered. No one believed it at first, but when they saw her walking on her own feet, hope began to return to hearts that had long forgotten it. Ethan woke early. He looked out the window of his guest quarters and saw the alien sky painted in shades of pink and gold. It was a quiet morning, but outside his door stood 2 royal guards. One of them bowed deeply. "Commander Ethan," he said, "His Majesty wishes to see you." "The council has gathered." Ethan nodded and followed them through the long hall. Every alien he passed stopped and watched him, their expressions filled with respect and curiosity. When he entered the council chamber, the king stood beside his daughter. Lyra looked stronger now, her cheeks no longer pale, her silver hair shining again. She wore a simple gown instead of the heavy royal robes, and her eyes glowed with a new kind of light, warm and full of life. King Zorath stepped forward. "Human," he said with a deep voice, "you have done what no one in this kingdom could do. You saved my daughter's life. I owe you a debt that cannot be repaid." Ethan bowed respectfully. "I only shared what my people have," he said quietly. "If our food can help your world, I want to teach your scientists how to make it for everyone." The king's council members exchanged uncertain looks. "You would give us this knowledge?" one of them asked. "Even after all that has happened between our worlds?" Ethan looked around the room. "War made us enemies," he said, "but kindness can make us allies. Humans learned that the smallest act, a meal, a gift, a word, can build peace where weapons never could." The room fell silent. The king finally spoke. "Then so it shall be. You will work with our scholars and healers. From this day forward, the Zareth Empire will cooperate with Earth." Lyra smiled softly. Her father had not spoken so gently in years. She turned to Ethan. "Will you show me how your people grow food?" she asked. "Of course," he said, smiling back. Days passed, and Ethan worked side by side with the alien scientists in the palace gardens. The land was harsh, the soil gray and brittle. But with the tools he brought, they began testing human crops, wheat, rice, and vegetables grown in nutrient soil. Lyra visited often, curious and eager to learn. She would ask questions about every plant and every taste. One day, Ethan showed her a small seed. "This one," he said, "is tomato. On Earth it grows red and round, full of flavor." Lyra held the seed gently as if it were a jewel. "Something so small can feed so many?" she asked. "Yes," Ethan said, "because we take care of it. That's what humans do best. We protect what gives life." Her gaze softened. "I think that's what your food taught me," she said. "That kindness has a taste, and when we share it, it grows." Weeks turned into months. Slowly, life began to return to the alien world. The first crop of human-style bread was baked in the palace kitchen. People from nearby cities came to see it. When they tasted it, their reactions were the same as Lyra's: wonder, joy, disbelief. Children laughed again, markets reopened, and the once quiet palace buzzed with music and celebration. Ethan became a hero, though he never asked for it. He spent most of his time helping the workers and teaching them how to mix soil and prepare meals. Lyra often joined him, not as a princess but as a friend. She carried baskets, served food, and laughed when she made mistakes. The people adored her even more now, seeing their princess walking among them, smiling and helping like one of them. One evening, when the day's work was done, Ethan stood on the balcony overlooking the golden fields. Lyra joined him, bringing 2 cups of a warm drink made from the new crops. "Do you miss your home?" she asked softly. Ethan looked at the horizon. "Every day," he said. "But when I see your world healing, I feel at home here too." She smiled gently. "Before you came, I thought humans were dangerous, but now I see that your strength is not in your weapons. It's in your heart." He looked at her, surprised by the calm certainty in her voice. "We're not perfect," he said, "but we try. That's what makes us human." For a while they stood in silence, listening to the wind move through the fields. Then Lyra spoke again, her voice quiet but sure. "When I tasted that bread, I didn't just feel alive again," she said. "I felt connected, to you, to your world, to something greater than all of us." Ethan didn't know how to answer. He just smiled. "Maybe that's what peace really tastes like," he said. In the following weeks, the bond between their worlds grew stronger. The Federation sent more aid ships, and the Zareth Empire sent scientists to Earth to learn. Every new harvest brought hope. Children who had once gone hungry now played in green fields. The once empty markets filled with laughter and song. But as every mission ends, Ethan's time on the planet was coming to a close. The Federation called him back for reassignment. When he told Lyra, she looked down, her voice trembling slightly. "So soon?" "I've stayed longer than planned," he said gently. "But I'll come back if the mission allows. This isn't goodbye forever." The next day, the palace gathered to honor him. Musicians played, banners waved, and the king presented him with a medal forged from the metal of their twin moons. "You gave my people life," the king said solemnly. "You will always be welcome in this palace." But it was Lyra who stepped forward last. In her hands was a small silver box. "This is for you," she said. Inside was a single preserved fruit from her world, glowing faintly blue. "It's the last of its kind. Keep it as a reminder that even from dying soil, something beautiful can grow again." Ethan looked at the gift, deeply moved. "Thank you," he said quietly. "I'll keep it safe, Princess," she smiled sadly. "Call me Lyra," she whispered. The ship waited on the landing platform. As Ethan walked toward it, the wind carried the scent of freshly baked bread through the air. He turned back one last time. Lyra stood on the balcony, her hair shining under the suns. Their eyes met across the distance. She raised her hand in farewell, and he did the same. When the engines lifted the ship, Lyra's world became smaller and smaller beneath him until it was just a glowing dot of blue and gold. He stared at it for a long time. The mission report would say he helped restore an alien ecosystem. But Ethan knew the truth. It wasn't science alone that saved them. It was something simple. Something human. He reached into his pocket and held the small silver box. Inside was the last fruit of a world reborn. And somewhere far below, a princess looked at the sky, whispering softly, "We will meet again, human." Years later, stories of that time became legend. They said an alien princess once tasted food from Earth and wept with joy. They said her people learned kindness from a human who carried no weapon, only bread. And they said that when the stars aligned just right, the scent of earthly food could still be felt drifting across the Zareth sky, a gentle reminder that hope and humanity could change even the coldest worlds. And so, the memory of one act of kindness, of a starving princess, a human's gift, and the warmth of shared food became the beginning of a new peace between two distant worlds. A peace born not from treaties or power, but from the simple miracle of compassion.